I hope you're doing okay, and I hope your nervous system is doing okay. It's been interesting to see how the energy has shifted in August. When I record an energy update, I usually record them about a week before they come out because, so many members of the team do different things on them. It's quite a production to get an energy update out now in the multiple formats that we bring it to you. And I'm always struck by some of it too. Some of the information that comes through I'm familiar with or I have an understanding of, and then other things show up for me too. And one of the things I've really noticed is there is a kind of brighter and wider energy in August that is showing up for some, not all, because it's still a little bit of a roller coaster, but there is a kind of higher energy note that has come in August, and it leans into creativity, visioning, and especially making changes. So one of the things I talked about in the energy update that felt applicable to everyone here in the portal community when I was tuning in this morning to see what's specific to this portal community is procrastination, choices, and change making. August has the kind of energy that if you have been struggling with something for months and months, or procrastinating about something, or deeply trying to heal something, if you're willing to feel the burn in August, you will push through very fast and very quickly. There is a birthing energy this month that's the strongest I've felt it since before the whole COVID lockdown spread across the world, which was March. There is a very strong birthing energy. It's not to say that there hasn't been birthing energy every month and that we're all a bit different. So we all have different moments of birth energy or change, of course. But there's a collective birth energy this month, and it's very strong and it's very potent. And it's going to change again in September is what I keep hearing. So this is a window of opportunity this month to really dig deep. So if you're listening to this going, yeah, that's interesting, I wish I could shift some stuff, I highly recommend the things that will support you making some shifts in the month of August are refining what it is that you want. So whether that's journaling, whether that's visioning, whether that's writing down lists of things that you want, which remember can be a really great way of getting clear. So for example, you might say, well, I wrote down these things and then 3 days later it had changed. Great, keep going. That's the creative process. The creative process, I think often as creatives who don't get started with projects, it's because we get stuck at vision. So to create anything in the world, there's a series of events and a sequence of events that need to take place. The visionary, and you may have heard me talk about this principle before, the visionary is the one that has the idea, and usually that's lovely. Like visionary is great, like visionary is like easy. It's like, oh my God, I've had this great idea and it feels wonderful. And I tell my friends and my friends go, oh, that's great. I'm so excited for you. And we all get excited. Then you have to figure out how to do it. And then you have to do it. And these two next stages are where we sometimes come unstuck. So I often call it visionary, architect, builder. So the visionary is the one that sees the vision and goes, oh my God, what a great idea. The architect is the one that plans and maps out how the idea might come to life, solves problems as to what might need to be solved in order for this idea to birth into reality. And then the builder is the one that has to make the phone calls, do the emails, build the thing, dig the garden, scrub the thing, problem solve when something comes up because it's not right. So there are different stages to creativity. And I think, I've worked in my life in the creative fields and in the spiritual and self-growth fields a lot. And I think what I notice in the spiritual and self-growth field is there is a trauma sometimes that we have in our body. And, let's be honest, everybody on planet Earth knows trauma at some level or another. So sure, there are extremes of trauma that some people have experienced, but I think there is a traumatization that we all go through as human beings, as souls, because this plane, this earth plane and its density And the insensitivity that exists on the planet is traumatizing to our spirit. And so it's something that we have all been initiated through. And then if you discover self-growth, healing, spirituality, you have a certain passion or hobby that is the thing that unlocks you. Perhaps you're highly against the concept of spirituality or self-growth, but you manage to figure out how to free your spirit in another way without ever really thinking too much about faith or spirit. There are ways that you can unlock yourself, but to unlock yourself, you usually have to embody. And what I've often seen in the spiritual community is the visionary part is very strong, but the building part can be a little more scary. And I understand why. It's because we have often gone to spirituality because it's a safe place, and it's safer than the human reality that we perhaps at one point had to leave or had to get away from or felt traumatized by. So there are many different ways that we can come back into our body, and sometimes it's working with a therapist or a healer. Sometimes it's a really healthy friendship that comes into our life that helps heal us from some of the traumatic relationships we've had. Or perhaps it's a friendly romantic partnership. Or perhaps it's having a family member suddenly turn around and apologize for something they did. You know, healing of our trauma usually happens in a myriad of ways at different moments through our lives. And we can also really focus it. We can go, oh my God, I've realized my fear is holding me back. What can I do to solve this? So in my life, that looked like starting with self-growth workshops when I was about 19, 20, because I had a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff to work through. And now I have less stuff to work through. I still have my stuff because I'm human. And like all of us, I'm growing every day and learning every day. But you can really focus your healing. So for any of you who are listening going, yeah, I get visionary and I get creatively blocked. Is it that you're afraid to create, or is it that you need help with your fear in general? Is it that this might be a good time to lean on that therapist or be a little more focused on your healing work in order to let your creative work grow? But equally, have you become a healing junkie? Have you become a healing addict and you're never really creating anything or getting anything done because you've got stuff to work through? I used to say this a lot in my 20s, and now I try and help other people not say this. I'm not a fan of when we as human beings say, oh, well, I would probably manifest that if I didn't have so many wounds. I've still clearly got some wounds to work through. I don't ascribe to that way of thinking anymore. We're all perfect exactly as we are, like even with all our wounds and our flaws, we're exactly where we're meant to be. I really, really firmly believe that. And this is coming from someone who could give you years of stories of self-loathing, self-hatred, self-judgment. And I still have my moments with those voices, those echo, those moments where I can be hard on myself, or the difference now is I catch it and I go, oh, I'm being too hard on myself. Oh, okay. And I can let it go. But for years, I was under the grip of those voices, and it was stopping me doing things. It was stopping me having experiences in the world that would have been really good for me if I had been able to get to them earlier. So couple things with this August energy, because I know it's really frustrating if you're in a place where you're a bit depressed or a bit down or feeling very blocked, and you hear someone say, oh, August is a great month to create stuff, woohoo, and you're sitting there going, I can't. So if that's you, or if it's making you sad, maybe frustration isn't your go-to, maybe sadness is your go-to when you hear words like that. This is going to be a really good month to get clear about what it is you would like to do, what it is you might like to create next in your life. It doesn't have to be a massive project. It might just be, God, I'd like to create having less triggered thoughts about myself, toward myself, about my life. I would actually like to not be in the grip of fear like I have been for the last 3 months. I would like to create stopping myself constantly focusing on articles that are scaring the hell out of me and actually living my life. Because if you've been around me for a while, you know that one of my mottos is any of us can die anytime. I have experienced that truth in my life firsthand in many different ways. Funny, I have a friend right now who I think is about to go. And I realized that she, I think the deaths I've gone through, especially in recent years, what happens for me is when somebody dies, they feel more present to me on a spiritual level immediately. And so I always try and remember that whenever I get too embroiled in human stuff, not to detach from things that are important. I'm not talking about sticking your head in the sand. I'm talking about paying attention to how balanced have I been feeling recently? How useful have I been towards myself and to others? And have I been experiencing a level of joy, contentment, or peace that I feel comfortable with? Now, in the times when I felt very, very depressed, I had to give myself a really realistic timeline about when I might feel joy about life. When I was kind of at my lowest, which I would say was 11 years ago, was kind of my darkest dark night of the soul. I had to tell myself, in 12 months' time, I'm going to be in a very different place. And that was mature of me, because years before I would have been way more flippant and like wanted it now. But I knew enough at that point about healing and about the human energy system that where I had gone to, it was not going to happen overnight, but that I had to make a commitment to walk that road for a year. So if you are in a really heavy place right now, acknowledge it. Ask yourself, what am I going to do to change it? Because if I knew I was going to die in 7 days, would I want to spend the next 7 days focused on what I'm focused on right now? Or would I want to try and bring myself to have a present experience of the life that's going on around me right now? And the reason I say that to you is, again, not to pull you away from issues that are important in the world, but because one of the things the Z's have said is that you are needed and now is your time. That phrase that they have said many times over the last few years is that when you bring in what lights you up to your life, you become a light for others in your life as well as yourself. And it doesn't mean you're always happy or always euphoric, but it does mean that life shouldn't be miserable. Life shouldn't feel tough. Life shouldn't feel hard all the time. And if it is, it's not necessarily your physical circumstances that are the only cause of that. I've known people in my life who've either had absolutely nothing in their life in terms of what you would assume as material comforts, or who've had awful, awful stuff happen to them. I mean, some of the darkest of the dark. And they're extraordinary. And they're in a really extraordinary place. And so the times that I was in victimhood about things in my life, they would always be good frames of reference for me. It didn't mean I could just snap my fingers and let go of the victimhood, because the victimhood was clearly in me, emotionally and psychologically. There was clearly something I needed to heal and work through. So I had to be compassionate towards that victim part, because that victim part felt wounded or had been wounded. But I was always struck by these other people. I was always struck by the people I had met and worked with who, despite their circumstances, despite what they had been through, despite the things they had been exposed to and subjected to, I was like, wow, how have they arrived at that? How have they become free of their past? It always just showed me it was possible. That was the thing. I didn't always know how they got there, but what it showed me was it was possible. And it reminded me that the mind is movable, because the mind will tell us a story about how we are and where we are and what's going on in the world. And they are stories. Doesn't mean some of those stories aren't true, but if the stories become the focus that we're really attached to, then we start to feel in relationship to that story. And the reason I bring this up because there's no judgment in anything I'm saying. Trust me, I've been one hell of a mess at many different times of my life, and I'm okay with that because I was just going through stuff and I was healing and I was learning how to heal for myself, and I was learning about healing patterns so that I could hopefully be more compassionate to others when they're going through it and I'm helping facilitate it. The thing to understand about this time, and this is what the Z's keep saying, and I'm noticing it happening in people around me, and I've felt it myself, but I'm seeing it happen worldwide. It's almost like stories are being taken away from us right now. Past stories are being removed. They are being pulled out of minds and bodies. And the Z's have said this is an act of consciousness. As the consciousness on the planet and the frequency of the consciousness has raised, what's happening is our old corded attachments down into the earth, into our ancestral bodies, into ancestral patterns that we as a collective have had, are being yanked out. It's disorienting and it's aggressive sometimes because it feels like, what the hell's going on? And I'm seeing a lot of people around me, they're either having this happen to them and they're unconscious it's happening. So they're confused, reactive, triggered, all of which can be experiences all of us can have at moments. And often for many of us, I think those are the moments when we realize, oh, something's going on. I just got really triggered, which is what the conscious version of that looks like. When you know enough about energy healing and the movement that can happen in you and through you as a human being when you're changing, that emotional trigger can be a clue. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay, am I stuck? Or, oh no, it's moving. Oh, it's leaving me. Oh, it's coming up because I have an opportunity to have more mental awareness, energetic awareness, and to change the pattern around it because I'm seeing it, feeling it, and loving myself through it and letting it go. Do I need to sit here and remember what happened when I was 26? Oh yeah, let's just give that 10 minutes. Wow, okay, I'm seeing it differently. It's not that I didn't experience it the way I experienced it at 26, but wow, okay. Now at 56, okay. And so a lot of that is going on. And as these stories are leaving, there's an opportunity to create new ones. And that's the bit I wanted to focus you on. We have an opportunity, and August, this is under the spotlight in a big way. And I couldn't elaborate about this in the energy update this much because, the energy updates, I have to try and keep them to about 25 minutes. And also you're covering, a few 100,000 people. But here in this community where the consciousness level is high and the conscious awareness is very focused because we're a smaller group, we've still got 2 weeks left in August. In fact, a little over 2 weeks. And there is a very creative, healing, transformational energy. My sense as we're talking is it will still be around until early September. Like I hear the date September 7th. So we have about 3.5 weeks where this energy is a high note in the energy weather. So you have plenty of time to harness it if you like the idea of making some conscious changes in your life. And again, those changes might be, I just don't want to feel depressed anymore. Or it might be, oh my God, I'm going to change what I'm doing for work. I'm going to move. I'm going to apologize to my dad. And I never thought I would apologize to my dad, but I've suddenly got to this point where I feel like apologizing to my dad might be a huge transformational thing, and those kinds of family shifts, they're huge because our family of origin, unless you didn't really have a close relationship, perhaps you weren't raised by your family of origin, or you didn't have a very close relationship with them. They're so formative, some of those relationships. Perhaps it's a friend or an ex. And maybe you won't say it verbally, but maybe you'll just feel it. Maybe you'll be like, wow, that I thought I would never get over that for the rest of my life. But you'll notice in this time, it's very potent, very healing. and things are coming off. And so as things are coming off, we can either make the choice to let things lift and open, or if you're already there, if you're already like, actually, I'm feeling better than I've ever felt. And it's weird because, yeah, there's a lot going on, but I actually in myself can honestly say I feel better than I ever have in my life in so many ways. Oh, this is a good time to create. This is a good time to lay some new foundation stones, because the message that comes through right now is that this is a template time this month. So what happens over this next 3.5 weeks, you have the opportunity to really lay some foundations for the coming years, because the energy weather's going to kick up again a little bit, especially as we get towards the end of September through to kind of, I want to say early to mid-December. I feel like it's going to be a little bit like that. Sorry for those of you who are now at home going, oh my God, and you've just taken the vodka out the cupboard. If vodka's your thing. I wouldn't, that wasn't an endorsement, by the way. I'm just should clarify, especially not if it's early in the morning. But the reason I say it is not because I think we have to live in fear of any of these energy spikes. If you got through March and April and May, you'll get through September, October, November, December. Don't worry. Because there were some pretty rough months in terms of the energies. Yeah, there was some great stuff. There were some real high notes. But I've never known the levels of fear spike the way they feared, the way they were spiking in March and April. And I have a friend who measures on the Hawkins scale, and they said that to me too. They said that the fear levels just went to an all-time low, an all-time high, low high. It's an interesting, yeah, in March. So this is not only a really good month, as in like, well, hey, it's a good month. It's an important month. It's a foundation month. So even if your plan for the next 3 weeks is to have a really busy time, maybe you're with family and you're going on holiday and all that stuff, just carve out a little bit of time for yourself to vision and think about, your next few years and what feelings, what energies, what situations would you like to create in the coming years? What feelings, what energies, what situations? And it's always nice as well to consider the rest of the world when you do this. I think it's one thing to look at your own life and the life of the immediate people around you. And, especially for those of you who are psychically active, for those of you who, and I know that pretty much is probably all of you in here, who have intuition that's active and who have psychic connection. You wouldn't be interested in channeling if you didn't have your psychic intuition connected. I remember when I was first told I was an empath, I honestly thought that the person who told me was completely confused and was just perhaps being what she thought was complimentary. But she was right, but I didn't see it myself. And I didn't see that I was intuitive when I was first told I was. But I knew I knew something was there, and then it grew and developed. So any of you who are in here, that's going to be your truth. On some level, you're either at the very beginning of your journey, or your friend said, oh, try this out. And you're like, oh, I'm not sure what I think of it. But there's some part of you is only in this group or reading books like this because you are recognizing something about the frequency, and perhaps lots of things about the frequency that you identify with. And by communing with it, by being in relationship to it, by learning about yourself through it, you get to enhance it. So if you are a spiritual seeker, when you're reading a book, watching a video, taking a workshop, in a membership community, anything, you're going to the gym. That's basically what you're doing. You're training. You're training yourself, you're calibrating yourself, and you're getting strong and galvanized in that knowing. And that knowing is spreading across the world. But, and I always struggle with this word because I think we have to be careful of hierarchy. there's such a, how do I put it? I think as humans, we've been kind of screwed over through hierarchy, and we've screwed ourselves over and we've screwed each other over. I'm not pointing the finger. I'm just saying that, we've got this hierarchical system that's very damaging to us in many ways. But it exists, and it's healing from the inside out. But the reason I have to preface what I'm about to say is I'm always hesitant whenever you hear the term leaders from up here in delivering it, because it can mean a different thing on the planet. So you are a leader of consciousness, and that doesn't mean you're better than your friend who doesn't know anything about intuition. It just means you're a leader of consciousness, and your friend might be a leader of emotional healing for you in an unexpected way, because they might be completely not interested in the spiritual stuff. But one day they say something in a conversation that models a way to be that blows your mind. So when I talk about leadership, I'm always mindful to preface it that it doesn't mean better. It just means that your role is to pioneer energetically and in consciousness and in a certain way of being. Sure, we're human. We all still have plenty to learn. But the reason I have to bring that to your attention while I'm saying all of this very long speech that I wasn't expecting to come out of my mouth when we started this broadcast. I thought we were going to go to questions really quickly. Your leadership in the world for the next 3 to 4 years is what you have the opportunity to lay a foundation stone for in this next 3.5 weeks. And if you're again reaching for the vodka because you're like, oh, Lee, I can't get off the floor, and now you're telling me this is when I'm supposed to be. No, don't worry. You can't mess it up. You can't miss it. So even those of you who are lying on the floor eating too many donuts, watching Netflix, going, oh, I shouldn't be eating sugar and dough, it's not very spiritual. Don't worry. You're still exactly where you're meant to be. If you're listening to this message, you're just clearing some of that stuff out so that you can. Hi, you've been watching an extract from one of my monthly broadcasts for our portal community, the Energy Tune-Up. Every month I do them for 90 minutes, and I also take questions both from my own vantage point as an energy intuitive, and then I channel my guides, the Z's, and they interact with the questions in our community. So here is a little glimpse into what you experience as a portal member, in case you wanted to consider trying it out for a month and seeing if it's for you. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the portal. The portal is my monthly members community, and we have been going for almost 8 years. Some have called it a sanctuary for sensitives. It's a place where I get to offer you tools to help you thrive, survive, and expand your life. So every month I get to bring in-depth teaching, specially curated content, and we do all of this in a private community. Over the years, my energy updates have become popular, but the thing about reading for everybody and the amount of people who tune into those now is we don't always necessarily get to specify. Every month, I do a 90-minute live broadcast, which is archived and available for replays for many months afterwards, where not only do I do an in-depth energy read for the portal member community, I also take live questions. So we have some pre-submitted questions, but we have a lot of live on-air questions. I stopped doing personal sessions a couple of years ago, so this is a great way to get your question answered, but also through this curated questioning, we get to uplift as a community, because the thoughts, the concerns, the hopes that are on the community's mind get looked at, and the energy tune-up becomes a healing call as a result. Secondly, you will receive that month's latest MP3. Every single month, we create a brand new MP3 that is usually a channel from my guides, the Z's, with sound healing, and often with an original song at the end, which I create in collaboration with Slovenian sound healer and composer Davor Bozik. These MP3s are designed to support you with what's going on in current energies and essentially to be an hour of audio medicine that you can listen to that month and forever in the future. Many people revisit these MP3s time and time again. We also have a classics library, 8 of my past titles that are favorites, that rotate every 5 months so that you get to go deeper with some recordings you may have otherwise missed or not been able to find in the past. Stephen Washington, my husband, delivers Qigong videos and teaching every single month that's exclusive to those of you in the portal. He creates a Qigong sequence that he bases on the themes of that month's energy update. Usually this is around 30 minutes long, and it remains in the portal as an archive for a full year after its first broadcast. So you immediately have access to 12 Qigong sequences on video from Stephen. Stephen also creates a short meditation every single month. These are around 7-8 minutes long because I wanted them to be short enough for you to use very easily, and he has created these with Davor Bozik. As a welcome bonus gift, when you join the portal, you will find Intuitive Power, the full video recording of our one-day event in London that kicked off our Intuitive Power tour. It's approximately 5 hours. It features myself and Stephen. If you've never been able to get to a live event, it's a great way to experience the live energy in the room and also learn some things about intuition, your body, and wellness along the way. And finally, my favorite thing is our Facebook community. Our Facebook community is a private group, so it allows people to have discussions, engage with each other, and support each other in the privacy of a contained group. So along with special discounts for portal members, we managed to bring all of this to you at an incredibly affordable fee every month. So if you want to try the portal, see if it resonates with you for a month, we would love to have you join us, try it out, and we hope you stay, because we love serving our members and we love curating and creating the portal every single month.